Hello, chosen one. Have you ever felt like something sacred within you has been slowly fading? Not because it's weak, but because the world hasn't yet recognized its light. There's an ache inside you that words cannot explain. A heaviness that doesn't show up on scans or in doctor's reports. You smile on the outside, function well enough, maybe even succeed by the world's standards. But inside, there's a quiet cry. A question that never stops echoing. Why do I feel like I'm meant for something more? It's not in your head. It's not some fleeting thought. It's not laziness or confusion. It's something older than time. A sacred signal from your soul, a divine homesickness, a whisper from the ancient part of you that remembers who you are. You were not born to live in shadows, to shrink, to survive and call it living. That ache is not a flaw, it is a compass. It's the sound of your destiny calling out, saying, "Wake up, chosen one. It's time." You've spent years trying to silence that cry. You've chased relationships, careers, validation, and comfort, thinking that maybe the right job or the right partner would quiet the storm inside. But none of it worked, did it? Because none of those things were ever meant to complete you. They were meant to mirror you, to show you what you've forgotten, not to define who you are. That ache you carry, it's sacred. It's not depression. It's divine discontent, a signal that you were never meant to stay asleep in this world. You didn't come here just to pay bills, fit in and die quietly. You came here to awaken, to remember, to rise. And I know how exhausting it feels to carry such a deep knowing while living in a world that constantly asks you to forget. You've been the sensitive one, the misfit, the too much or never enough. But listen closely now. This pain isn't punishment, it's preparation. You are not broken. You are becoming. You see, before a soul can remember its divine purpose, it must first confront the ache of forgetting. That ache you felt. It's sacred separation. It's your higher self waiting patiently for the day you finally turned inward and asked, "What am I really here for?" And maybe today is that day, because something is stirring. Something you can't quite name but can deeply feel. It's subtle but undeniable. A shift in your energy. A longing to break free. A magnetic pull towards something greater. It's the beginning of your soul's remembering. The first spark of your chosen one awakening. You were never meant to live small. You were born with a divine spark, a spiritual power that cannot be contained by society's labels or other people's limitations. That sacred cry inside you isn't weakness. It's your soul rising, and it's time to stop running from it. Let the ache lead you back to yourself. Let the longing become a doorway, because what you're truly aching for isn't out there. It's within. Your purpose, your power, your divine destiny. You are not alone in this feeling. So many chosen ones walk through life feeling unseen, carrying sacred missions in their bones, silently aching for alignment. But the ache is the first sign, the beginning of the unfolding. So if you've ever laid awake at night wondering, If you're going crazy, or if maybe your soul is just too different, this is your confirmation. You are not crazy. You are chosen. You were born with a light so fierce, so unique, that even darkness had to test you. This world needed your soul. Your presence is not random. Your story is not accidental. You didn't stumble into this life. You were sent, and now, something you've been waiting for is finally about to unfold. That ache you've carried, it's about to make sense. Breathe that in. Let it settle into your bones. Because from this moment forward, your soul is no longer lost. It's awakening. You weren't broken. You were buried. Buried under the noise of the world, under the opinions of others, under shame, under false identities. You were not lost. You were hidden. Hidden so deeply that even you began to forget the fire you once carried. And for a time, it felt like your light had gone out. But it didn't. It was never extinguished, only veiled. This forgetting you've experienced, this fog, this disconnection, this strange emptiness, it wasn't punishment. It was spiritual amnesia, a divine concealment designed to protect the sacredness of your light until it was ready to rise. There were moments, weren't there, when you questioned everything. Moments you felt like a stranger in your own body, confused by the gap between who you were and who you were pretending to be. You played roles, you wore masks, you smiled through sadness, you fit yourself into shapes that weren't yours, just to feel safe, just to be accepted. But all along, a deeper part of you waited, quietly. The real you, the powerful, intuitive, radiant you, was never gone, just asleep beneath the surface. This is what being chosen often looks like in the early chapters: isolation, confusion, doubt. You weren't meant to follow the crowd. So life made it uncomfortable when you tried. You weren't meant to blend in. So the universe made your soul too loud to silence. Can you see now? The very things that made you feel broken were the signals of your divine design. You've battled identity confusion not because you were empty, but because your soul refused to be labeled. You felt emotionally overwhelmed not because you were weak, but because your sensitivity is spiritual intelligence in disguise. You felt alone not because you were abandoned, but because you were being summoned. Spiritual amnesia is part of the divine blueprint. Before the chosen one can rise, they must first walk blind through the world, learning to hear with their soul rather than their senses. And that blindness you walked through, it gave you something others can't fake: compassion, depth, discernment, vision. You can now feel beyond appearances. You can now hear what isn't spoken. You can now see light even in darkness. That's why you were buried. Not to lose yourself, but to find yourself with capital S, the ancient, eternal, divine part of you that never left. Yes, you forgot. But now you remember. You remember what it's like to feel energy. You remember how your intuition once screamed before your logic could catch up. You remember how dreams used to speak to you, how you always felt like you were here for more, even when you couldn't explain it. That wasn't a fantasy. That was your soul memory surfacing, and maybe now you're beginning to understand why nothing ever fully satisfied you. It wasn't that you were hard to please. It's that your spirit was waiting for something real, something holy, something sacred enough to match the frequency of who you truly are. This forgetting has shaped you. This darkness has deepened you. You've been refined by the fire of not knowing. And now that your light is returning, it's not just a glow, it's a flame. It's a force. You are no longer just remembering who you were. You're becoming who you were always meant to be. So don't resent the years you felt lost. They weren't wasted. They were woven. Every broken road was carving out the very path you are now walking. The spiritual amnesia was not the end of your story. It was the moment before the awakening, and now the light is returning. Not as it once was, but brighter, fiercer, sacred. You are not forgotten. You are remembering. And with every breath, you are rising. There were seasons in your life when even breathing felt like warfare, where simply getting out of bed was a silent act of courage, where you smiled in front of others, but inside you were falling, endlessly, invisibly. You walked through your days with a bleeding soul, while the world kept asking you to perform, to smile, to be strong. But they didn't see the war, did they? No one saw the shadows you were wrestling at 2 a.m. No one heard the screams of your soul when everything around you was silent. No one noticed how much energy it took just to pretend to be okay. You were living in a battlefield that had no landmarks. No medals, no flags, just spiritual warfare. And though no sword was drawn, you were being wounded again and again by betrayal, by abandonment, by a sense of not belonging, by cycles that repeated so viciously they made you question your very worth. These battles were invisible to others, but not to the divine. Heaven never looked away, because what you endured wasn't random. It wasn't karma or punishment or some cruel twist of fate. It was sacred. Every hardship, every breakdown, every time you cried in silence was a spiritual initiation. You were being prepared, not punished, refined, not rejected, because the calling over your life is not casual. It's cosmic. You're not just a human having a spiritual experience. You are a soul with divine assignment, placed in human form. And so the preparation had to go deep. It had to touch the places no one else could reach. It had to dismantle false foundations. It had to break the versions of you that were never really you. You've walked through loss, not to lose, but to learn the unshakable truth that nothing external can define you. You've known isolation, not because you were rejected, but because your soul was being pulled away from the noise so it could hear the whisper of God again. The scars you carry are not proof that you're broken. They're proof that you fought, that you survived, that you endured without applause and still didn't let the darkness consume you. You may have felt invisible, but in the spiritual realm, your name was always known. The angels wept with you. The divine realm recorded every tear, not as weakness, but as offerings of strength. You are not weak because you struggled. You are powerful because you didn't quit. Can you feel it now? The truth beginning to rise within you. That your pain had purpose. That your battle was not punishment. It was birth. Birth of a deeper strength. Birth of a clearer vision. Birth of a divine identity. Every night you cried alone was a training ground for your compassion. Every time you questioned your worth, you were unknowingly chiseling out your purpose. Now you know how to recognize pain in others. Now you understand suffering not from theory, but from sacred experience. And now your light holds weight. You're not just shining. You've earned your glow. You are not here to play small or hide your scars. You're here to lead with them, because it was never about being perfect. It was about being real. And the world doesn't need another polished mask. It needs someone who's walked through fire and still chose love. Someone who knows how to speak life into broken places because they've been there. That someone is you. You are not the wounds. You are the warrior who lived through them. You are not the darkness. You are the light that couldn't be extinguished. So breathe again, not as a survivor, but as a soldier of the soul. You were chosen for this path. You were trusted with these scars because the divine knew you would turn them into wisdom, into power, into prophecy. You didn't just go through the hidden war, you won it, and that victory is only the beginning. There comes a moment in every sacred journey when the life you built begins to fall apart, not slowly, but all at once. The people you trusted become strangers. The path you were walking crumbles beneath your feet. The plans you made with so much hope dissolve like mist, and you're left standing in the rubble, confused, abandoned, shaken, wondering what you did wrong. But what if you didn't do anything wrong? What if this wasn't your failure, but your activation? Because when the divine chooses someone for a higher calling, it rarely happens in comfort. It begins in disruption. This is the storm they never warned you about. The storm that strips everything you clung to. The divine interruption that empties your hands so you can finally receive truth. You see, those broken relationships, they weren't meant to carry you forward. That career that dissolved, it was rooted in survival, not soul. The dreams that didn't work out, they were too small for your real purpose. What shattered was never your foundation. It was your illusion. Because when a soul like yours forgets its power, the universe doesn't whisper, it roars. The emptiness you felt wasn't punishment. It was space. Space for a deeper truth to rise. Space for the real you to emerge. The one buried under expectations, fears, and conditioning. It's no accident that your awakening began in the collapse. That's how rebirth works. Not in the safety of routine, but in the ashes of everything you thought you were. Your spirit needed stillness. Your soul needed quiet. So the divine removed the noise, and in that silence, that sacred nothingness, you began to hear the whisper. You were never meant to live a life of just surviving. You were born to remember. That's when it starts. Not with applause, not with clarity, but with sacred confusion, because your old identity no longer fits, but the new one hasn't fully formed. You are in between worlds, no longer who you were, not yet who you are becoming. But don't be afraid of this void. It is holy. It is womb space for your divine destiny. And like many souls who walk this spiritual path, including those guiding lost seekers to clarity through platforms like the one you've been creating, you're not losing your life. You're being returned to it. The truth is, you didn't lose anything essential. You lost only what was delaying your becoming. And when it feels like everything is crumbling, sometimes it's the divine building you from the inside out, stronger, wiser, aligned. You are not a failure. You are a seed that was cracked open by pressure, so the light within could grow roots in truth. Let yourself grieve the old version of your life, but do not mourn your purpose. It was never lost. It was waiting for the moment you would finally be empty enough to hear it. So breathe, beloved soul, not in fear, but in reverence. You are not in chaos. You are in transition. And this divine disruption, it's not the end. It's the beginning of your soul's remembering. It doesn't happen all at once. The remembering, it begins in small, quiet moments. A feeling that rises when the world grows still. A glimpse of something ancient in your reflection. A flicker in your eyes that whispers, you've been here before. This isn't a journey of becoming someone new. It's not about fixing, changing, or pretending. This is about remembering. Remembering who you were before the world told you who to be, before the conditioning, before the expectations, before the silence of your soul was mistaken for weakness. Somewhere along the path you forgot. You forgot the divine fire you were born with. You forgot that your sensitivity was a gift, not a flaw. That your dreams were maps, not fantasies. That your spirit wasn't broken, only buried. But now, the sacred mirror has appeared. And it's not on any wall. It's within you. In your solitude. In your stillness. In the space where masks fall and truth rises. This mirror doesn't show you the labels the world gave you. It shows you the light behind your eyes. It reflects the you that has always existed. The cosmic self, the royal essence, the eternal one. And for the first time in a long time, you are beginning to see it. Not just believe it, but feel it, that knowing that you were never truly lost, that your detours were part of the design, that even your most broken moments carried seeds of divine remembrance. You were not created to conform. You were created to awaken. The world taught you to hide your light, to shrink, to doubt your own voice. But the sacred mirror shows something else. It shows you the lion behind your silence, the priestess beneath your pain, the ancient memory in your modern tears. It shows you origin, a soul that walked in wisdom before it walked in flesh. A chosen one, not because of status, but because of assignment. You didn't come here to blend in. You came here to pierce the illusion, to walk into rooms and shift atmospheres, to carry frequencies that awaken sleeping souls. You came here to embody what the world forgot: truth, light, divine remembrance. And yes, that makes you different. It makes you misunderstood, but it also makes you essential. This is what the sacred mirror reveals: that your path was never random. Your gifts were never a mistake. Your presence here is part of a celestial alignment, written in the stars long before you took your first breath. And now you are being reintroduced to your true nature. Not a weak, wounded being stumbling through life, but a royal soul, cloaked in stardust, encoded with divine memory. This is your reawakening, so breathe. Breathe into this knowing. The discomfort is just your old self resisting extinction. But your true self, the self that came from realms of light, is rising. And it's beautiful, terrifying, but beautiful. Because it means you can never go back to who you were pretending to be. You've looked into the mirror now. You've seen the truth. And once you remember who you are, you will never again believe the lie that you are less than sacred. There was a time you prayed for strength with trembling hands, begged the universe to make you powerful. You thought power was something you had to earn, a gift only given to those who seemed stronger, louder, more certain than you. But that was the illusion. The sacred test within the forgetting, because real power, divine power, was never external. It was never about titles, dominance, or noise. It was always hidden in your silence, in the soft, steady beat of your own becoming. You weren't weak. You were just surrounded by voices that convinced you to forget. You were powerful all along, but you were taught to fear your own magnitude. You thought you were the storm survivor. But love, you are the storm. This is the moment, the sacred return to your soul's throne. The realization that your words shape frequencies, that your presence can still oceans or shake foundations, that your energy was never ordinary. It was encoded with divine purpose. The veils are thinning now, the illusions are dissolving, and what's left is you, pure, radiant, untamed. You're not just surviving anymore. You're rising. And with each rise, a deeper truth echoes through your bones. You were never powerless. You were never voiceless. You were never abandoned. You were chosen. And chosen ones don't find their power. They remember it. They awaken into it, like fire remembering its flame, like oceans remembering their tide. Every time you silenced your truth to keep the peace, your soul took notes. Every time you held back your light to make others comfortable, your spirit stored that energy, waiting for this moment. And now, it's being returned to you, not as vengeance, not as noise, but as sacred knowing, unshakable awareness that you are the vessel of divine force. Can you feel it? The way you walk differently now? the way you don't need to beg, prove, or chase anymore. That's power. That's what happens when a sleeping lion remembers its roar. That's what happens when a soul no longer fears its own reflection. Your pain sculpted this knowing. Your shadows forged this light. You didn't find your strength in spite of the darkness. You found it inside the darkness. Because that's where chosen ones are reborn. Not in ease, but in initiation. So let this be your spiritual rebirth. Let this be the chapter where you stop seeking outside and start commanding within. Not arrogantly, not forcefully, but from a place of soul-solid truth. I remember who I am. And now the universe remembers too. Because when the chosen awaken, everything around them must align. There was a time you tried so hard to belong, to blend in, shrink down, mask your light just enough to be accepted by people who could never truly see you. But that version of you, the one who feared being too much or not enough, has quietly faded, because your soul has outgrown the performance. You no longer crave validation. You crave vibration. You're not looking to fit into rooms. You're looking to resonate with them, and that's the difference between survival and soul alignment. The loneliness you've carried wasn't punishment. It wasn't the universe turning its back on you. It was sacred separation. A divine pulling away so you could be realigned with truth. Yes, it hurt when people left. Yes, it ached when conversations felt hollow. But that ache was your soul, whispering, "This is not your frequency anymore." You were never meant to blend into noise. You were born to become the signal, to walk a path that no crowd could approve, because it was never built for the crowd. The chosen are called apart, not because they are better, but because their instructions are different. And different often feels like exile, until you realize it's actually initiation. You're not isolated, you're being refined. Refined so that when you speak, your voice heals. When you move, you shift energies. When you stand alone, you stand with angels. This is the power of alignment. It frees you from the exhausting chase of approval. It anchors you in purpose. Even if no one claps when you rise, let the world misunderstand. Let them mislabel your silence as distance. You are not lost. You are just aligned now, and in alignment your soul finally breathes. This is it. The sacred moment your soul has whispered about in silence. The shift that felt like it would never come is here. Not loud, not chaotic, but undeniable. There's something in the atmosphere, something ancient and divine, and it's responding to you. You've felt it for months, maybe years. The strange stirrings, the inexplicable pulling, the moments of surrender that broke you wide open. The pain that emptied you, only to prepare space for the miracle that is now unfolding. No, you weren't late. No, you didn't miss your chance. Everything that seemed delayed was actually divine preparation. You were never waiting on the world. The world was waiting on your alignment. And now your soul is vibrating with the frequency of fulfillment. Your prayers, the ones soaked in tears, the ones you spoke through trembling lips. They were heard, and heaven did not say no. It said, "Not until you are ready to carry the weight of what you asked for." And now, you are. You are not who you were. You're not wounded the same way. You don't beg the way you used to. You listen now. You move differently. You walk with the grace of someone who remembers they are chosen. This is your sacred reversal, where what once broke you will now bless you. Where the same things that drained you now flow through you with divine energy. Because what was once blocked by resistance is now magnetized by alignment. It may not look like fireworks. It may not feel like a movie, but deep in your spirit you know. This is your shift, the moment where healing has become harvest, the moment where lessons have turned to legacy, the moment where your soul steps into what it's always known. You were made for this. Let it unfold. Let it arrive in divine rhythm. You don't need to chase. You don't need to convince anyone. What's yours by divine assignment can never miss you. The gates are opening because you are open. The universe is responding because you have remembered who you are. Chosen, aligned, ready. You were never meant to just survive. You were never meant to chase fleeting moments, to fill your days with noise and distractions, hoping for meaning to emerge. Your purpose is not a job title. It's a calling, one that has echoed in your spirit since the beginning of time. You were not born to simply occupy space. You were born to leave a mark on the world, on the hearts of those you touch, on the lives you will change. You were made for impact. There's a fire burning within you, and it isn't a fire that consumes or destroys. It's the sacred fire of transformation, a flame that refines, that reveals, that propels you forward and draws others to the light of your purpose. This is the moment where everything you've experienced, all the struggles, the lessons, the pain, has led you to the fire of your divine calling. You walk now with a clarity that others can't deny, with an authority that no one can take from you. You've faced your fears, you've seen your weaknesses, and yet you stand stronger than ever. You were chosen for this moment, not to blend into the shadows, but to rise and lead. You weren't born to fit in with the world. You were born to awaken others by first awakening yourself. Every step you take is a call to action for those who are still asleep. Your presence is the invitation for them to remember that they too are chosen. You are a spark in the darkness, a beacon of light, guiding others back to their own truth. This is your time. This is your season to walk boldly, with the knowing that your every movement, your every word, your every breath is activating divine transformation. Your purpose is unfolding, and with it, your soul's power. You were never meant to shrink. You were never meant to hide. You were born to ignite, and now, as you step into your divine destiny, know this. The world doesn't just need what you do. It needs who you are. And when you stand in your truth, you will light the way for others to stand in theirs. You are the awakening, and it is time to walk through the fire of your calling. This isn't just a message. This is a mirror. Look closely. Do you see the reflection staring back at you? That reflection isn't just the person you've been taught to be. It's the person your soul has always known you were, the one your ancestors prayed for, the one your future has been waiting for. You, right now, are the answer to 1,000 prayers. Every challenge you faced, every tear you've shed, every moment of doubt, they've all led you here. They've been the preparation for this very moment, the moment when you remember who you truly are, the chosen one. This is not a metaphor. This is your divine truth. You were chosen before time began. The world doesn't need another echo. It doesn't need someone to blend into the noise of society, to follow the crowd and dim their light. It needs your roar. It needs your truth, your frequency, your divine power. It's time to rise, not tomorrow, not next year, not after you've figured everything out, but right now. Step into the fullness of your light. Step into the power that has always been within you. The world needs your gifts, your voice, your presence in a way it never has before. It's time to activate your soul's mission. This isn't just another chapter of your story. This is the activation of your divine purpose. The time for hiding, for second-guessing, is over. You are not here to wait for permission. You are not here to play small. You are here to rise, to be seen, to be heard, to step into the calling that has been waiting for you. Everything you need is within you. Everything you've experienced has prepared you. Your soul knows exactly what it came here to do, and now is the time to take that first step, to walk boldly, to walk proudly in the fullness of your divine power. You've spent too long doubting yourself, wondering if you were enough, if you were worthy. Now, in this sacred moment, remember this. You are enough. You were never meant to be anything other than exactly who you are. The world is waiting for you to step into your power, and when you do, you will activate the world around. Your light will pierce the darkness. This is your time. The veil has lifted, the door is open, and all you have to do is walk through it. You are chosen. You are ready. Now rise. This is your divine activation. The time to live as the chosen one you were always meant to be is now.